Oh, it's a great honor. Obviously, Coach Huff leaving gave me an opportunity. Coach Huff is an amazing coach, and I hate to see him go. But it's going to be fun. Being in control of the offense, being able to call plays, and it's a lot of responsibility. And I'm glad Coach Harsin feels, that it feels good with me, being able to do that.
Harsin said, on the third downs, when you were in charge of that last year, he was comfortable with what you were able to do. How much of a groove were you able to get in? And, when you started here, you're talking about you were learning the offense just like
Sure.
the new guys. So how much more comfortable did you get as the year kind of progressed?
Yeah, the year was awesome. It was a great situation to be able to come into, be able to call a few plays here and there with third downs, understand the terminology, get a full spring and an off season, a summer, and then through the fall, to be able to break myself in a little bit and just feel more comfortable with all the terminology and the play calling, and having another off season and the spring and some scrimmages will be great. So I'm looking forward to that.
There's a lot of players that are gone on the offensive side of the ball, but you do have your quarterback back. How much does that help when you're getting into a season when you have a returning quarterback?
It's huge. Having Brett back and a guy, an operator that can go out there and understand the play call, get guys right, if they're misaligned, handle the motions and shifts, and really just being able to go out there and execute. Even if we've got some new bodies out there, obviously some injuries that are, to some main guys that are, sitting out, but that's going to be really, really nice for the young guys and helping to build depth. And those guys know that they need to step up and make plays. But it's a great experience for the young guys being able to get in there and get a whole lot more reps through spring. The older guys are already doing a great job of coaching, on the sideline and being those mentors, even if they are, a little banged up. So it's a good process, and we're going to get as much as we can out of the spring.
Taking over just play calling, what are maybe some of the big things you look at from last year to this year that you're going to attack for 2017?
Really our offense, right now we're working on the DNA type stuff. That's part of what we do in Boise football, and that blue collar mentality. So we're going to run the football. We're going to have some play action stuff off of it. We're going to be in open sets and be in heavy sets. And, we've got a lot of returning tight ends, which is a big help for us. So again, bigger bodies that can help us in the run game, but can also, spread out and be big targets for Brett, at times. So we're going to try to stay as versatile as possible and be as unpredictable as possible.
You talk about the DNA. I know you're not a geneticist, but have you kind of split in some of that stuff? From Eastern Washington, obviously that was a potent offense and stuff like that, and I know you're not trying to reinvent what they do here, but have you been able to add some of that stuff, or how can you, if that's even been a possibility?
Yeah, a little here and there with some of the Eastern Washington stuff, but, with it being early in spring, we're doing what we do, and then we can add some wrinkles, some things we're talking about in the off season to be able to mix some things up. Whether it's screen game, whether it's pass game, or even some run stuff. We'll get into a little bit of the auxiliary stuff in the second half of spring. But yeah, right now it's the meat and potatoes, and making sure our guys know exactly what the adjustments are on each play, and taking advantage of just operating.
Where do you want to see the offense, maybe looking back at last season and then looking ahead? Where do you want to see the offense kind of maybe take a step up, or maybe something that wasn't quite to the standard that you were hoping last year?
Well, we want to execute, okay? And our big deal right now in the spring, and our emphasis for the spring, is just confidence and playing fast. And again, that's a little bit of a challenge with not having a lot of those guys that have played a lot. And some of those younger guys that are stepping up and trying to make plays. But again, it's about them studying, about them preparing, and so they can go out and have confidence and be able to do that. But again, we want to be a physical offense, whatever position it is. Okay, whether it's quarterback, O-line, running backs, tight ends, and the wide receivers on the edges. And that blue collar mentality has got to show up this spring.
When you're getting ready to call plays, how much of it, from either game to game or season to season, depends on strengths of the team, and how much depends on what you guys maybe as coaches like?
I think every game you want to have the guys feel comfortable with what we're calling and what they're running. So you've got that chunk of our base offense that we may try to design different motions or different formations that we're running it out of to disguise it a little bit. You're trying to add, little tweaks to certain things, and then add some stuff that a defense hasn't seen. So I think from game to game, obviously you're seeing different fronts and different coverages, so you've got to change, what type of plays you're running, and so there's, a little bit of give and take between all of that. And then you're also trying to figure out what you showed last week or 2 weeks before and what they're watching, and trying to, get them on some of that stuff.
One of the big questions is replacing McNichols, and Madison not being able to do contact this spring. How does that kind of play for spring ball, knowing first you've got to replace McNichols, but you're not going to be able to see a lot of Madison?
Sure, yeah. Losing J-Mac is always tough, and every year you're going to lose guys that you love and that were, legends, as far as Boise State. But there's always guys that step up, and we've got some young guys we've got a lot of confidence in. And Alexander Madison is a heck of a football player, and he's already showed that he can play in big games and do big things. And then you got guys like Rob Mahone, redshirted this year. We've got a ton of confidence in him and what he can do. So he's already shown and getting reps out there with Alex being out, with his shoulder. So, but yeah, it gives those young guys an opportunity to go ahead and play. But the running back position, we're going to be just fine.
What have you seen out of Rathan so far, and what he's brought to the table? And Brett said that he's done a good job of learning that offense, but obviously it's a process too.
That it is. With our offense here at Boise, there's a lot of intricacies and a lot of adjustments and a lot of terminology and signals. So it is a process. Somebody trying to come in and learn it all. Okay, I know from a first-hand basis last year. Okay, but Rathan's done a great job of preparing himself and watching film. Obviously, a very talented kid and can do some things not only with his arm but his feet. He can extend plays and make it really tough for a defensive coordinator to, feel comfortable calling plays or feel comfortable calling pressures. Or if it's going to be drop 8, hey, you got to really worry about, a quarterback that's going to run a little bit. And Brett's working on all that stuff too. I know he's excited for the off season, working on some athleticism and taking off and being more of a, point guard mentality. But yeah, Rathan's a special player. He's definitely going to push Brett. And it's going to be a fun competition in there, and the 3 guys we got, with adding Jake Constantine into the mix and getting more reps with him, it's going to be a whole lot of fun. But yeah, there's good competition in there, and they all are doing a phenomenal job of just focusing on themselves, focusing on their reps, and then when they're not in, they're getting good mental reps.
What can you do with a quarterback that hasn't really run much in his career like Brett has? Can you do some things to make it so that they feel more comfortable doing it? Can you help them with speed? What are kind of things you can do to help a quarterback maybe become a little more mobile?
Sure. Our strength and conditioning guys have done an awesome job. Okay, Coach Pitt and Tyson and Pringle in there are working with all those guys, but specifically Brett too, with some running form things, trying to get his mechanics a little bit better. Off season, we're working a lot of lateral movement. Putting those quarterbacks in some drills where they're having to make moves in space, having to make cuts, and working a few things there where we're trying to put them in a position where they have to do some stuff.
Last season you had 5 tight ends in the roster. Now you got 7, and
yeah.
Up until the bowl game, the tight ends weren't, in terms of receptions, weren't terribly productive. Why do you think that was? And I know obviously that's kind of a focus here in the spring, maybe to get them more involved, but. What can you guys do going forward, and maybe why didn't it work so much last year?
Well, when you've got some stud receivers like Spurbeck and Sed, and you got Chaz, and you got a bunch of them, and so we're trying to get those guys on the field and trying to get those guys receptions too. So you got to play off your personnel, and what the best personnel you're trying to put on the field and to be successful as an offense. And right now, with Sed being out, and obviously we don't have Spurbeck and some of those guys. We do have some big body tight ends that are very athletic, and Jake Knight showed a ton last year, and you got Alec Danes, you got Rowe back, and he's healthy, and so you've got some guys that can go out and be big targets for our quarterbacks, so we can still feel comfortable with getting into some open sets, but still being at 12 personnel, and then being able to get them down in there and work some run game and play action stuff with them too.